What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to explore the ancient ruins of Angkor Archeological Park, located just north of Siem Reap in Cambodia. We'll talk a little bit about the history. I'll toss around a couple fun facts, and then I'd like to discuss a few of the rather large mistakes that I made when I visited a few years ago. When I say like rather large, I'm talking pretty massive. Oops. This is basically gonna be like a don't do what Nikki did video. Yeah. Hoping that some of these tips and tricks I've got will be useful for those who might be interested in visiting one day. And now, without further ado, let's jump in. I distinctly remember the feeling of walking into the temples for the first time. A heightened awareness, almost as if my body could sense that I was walking on sacred ground. I found it astounding how an ancient civilization built solely on manpower could construct such intricate structures. It was the most extravagant thing I'd ever seen, and it instantly sparked my curiosity on how it came to be. Angkor was the largest pre-industrialized city known to man, and it was a thriving and political community dating all the way back to the 9th century. After centuries of rule by many kings, the city was eventually sacked, and by the end of the 15th century, it was almost completely abandoned. Over the following few hundred years, the forest actually engulfed this ancient city, and it wasn't until 1907 that French archaeologists actually began the restoration. The complex consists of over 1,000 temples spanning across 400 square kilometers and collectively is protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So you can probably tell that me purchasing a one-day ticket to explore the entirety of this property was probably my first really big mistake. Do not buy a one-day ticket. The first temple I was able to explore is Angkor Wat. It is a Buddhist holy temple, and it is the largest religious monument in the entire world. It alone attracts over 2.5 million visitors every year. Next, I traveled into Angkor Thom via the South Gate. Angkor Thom is an encased citadel consisting of many significant temples. At one point in history, only high-ranking government officials and royalty were actually allowed within the walls. The most famous temple inside of Angkor Thom is Bayon. Bayon was dedicated to Buddhism by the king, as it showcases the four faces of Buddha. Now, this temple is also in very poor condition. The king at the time was in very poor health, and he wanted it completed before he died so he could see it. So it was built with haste and not with quality. Now, the last temple I was able to explore thoroughly was Ta Prohm. Now, Ta Prohm is probably the most iconic temple, and you might actually be familiar with it. It's very photogenic, and it's got beautiful banyan trees just growing up and through all of the ruins. Like, it's a very cool look, but it was made extremely famous in the 2001 film Lara Croft Tomb Raider, starring Angelina Jolie. All right, so now for my favorite part of the video, tips, tricks, and things to remember before you go, AKA don't follow in my footsteps. The first thing I want to talk about is the best time of year to go. Many people will tell you that between November and March is the best time. It's cooler and it's drier, however, it's very crowded. April to May, deathly hot. So hot, but quieter. Whereas June to October, hot, wet afternoons with probable thunderstorms, and less crowds. I'm here to tell you that that is just a guideline. My experience, I went in June of 2016. The country was experiencing the hottest summer in recorded history. Temperatures skyrocketed above 40 degrees Celsius. It was extremely crowded, And the clothing that I had just bought from a lovely vendor, the dye bled everywhere because of how much I was profusely sweating. Sweating so much, like so sweaty. And so by the end of the day, I had tie-dye clothes. The second thing I want to discuss is when to purchase your ticket. I cannot stress this enough. Make sure you buy your ticket the day before you plan on going to the park. My second big mistake, especially if you want to do the sunrise tour and watch that gorgeous sunrise above Angkor Wat. If you get stuck purchasing your ticket the day of, you are going to face huge lineups at a ticket office, and it opens at 5 a.m., so you're going to be cutting your views very close, and you are going to be stuck behind the hundreds of people who are already there and have taken all of the really good spots for pictures. So don't be like me. Currently, 1 day in the park will cost you $37 US, 3 days in the park will cost you $62 US, and 7 days in the park will cost you $72 US, all including a $2 donation to the Canva Children's Hospital Fund. You absolutely need more than 1 day to explore the park. I recommend minimum of 3, if not a week if you're into that kind of thing. A few other recommendations regarding tickets: keep it in a plastic bag. The heat and or your sweat and or the rain will ruin it in some way. The ink will bleed, which could lead to fines. Another thing to be aware of is ticket scammers. Only take direction from official guards. They'll be dressed in a blue shirt with a photograph lanyard and a badge. These armed guards are there strictly to enforce security. If somebody's asking you for more money on the property, it's probably a scam, so you might want to just skedaddle out of there, politely decline and walk away. All right, the third thing I'd like to discuss with you is tuk-tuk scams and how to avoid them. Do we like scammers? No. Do they exist? Yes. My advice, do your research and know the going rate. Be firm, but also respectful while you're haggling. So you're gonna pay about $15 to $25 US to get you from Siem Reap to Angkor City. Expect to pay a little bit on the higher spectrum if you are looking for a guided tour or if you are planning to do the sunrise sunset aspect of the temple touring. Other than that, I would suggest trying to come to an agreement with your driver before going. Make sure it's very clear what you'll be paying. Otherwise, just book your driver through your accommodation. Most hotels and hostels will have good relationships with familiar tuk-tuk drivers. Even paying just an extra couple bucks here or there to avoid any sort of uncertainty or potential issues that can arise from booking with somebody unfamiliar. The fourth thing that I wanted to discuss with you is how to act and dress while you are in and exploring the temples. It is extremely important to remember that these are sacred places, and it is very, very important that you are respectful in all sense of the word. Avoiding any childish behavior, keeping your voice down, removing your hat when walking into a temple. But the most important one to remember that I will stress is to make sure that your knees and your shoulders are covered. I would recommend long pants or at least capris, and then at least a t-shirt. It's a mandatory thing to keep in mind. As always, thanks again for tuning in, guys. I hope you found this information interesting and or useful for your future travel planning. I'm really having a good time making the video, so if you liked this one, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button on your way out. We'll see you next time.